Google ads versus Facebook ads. I think it's really safe to say that this has been one of the most commonly asked questions, and also a question which a lot of e-commerce store owners always have in their mind. And I kind of don't blame them, because there was a time when I used to have this question myself, and I really didn't know back in that time which kind of way I should go, whether it should be with Google ads or with Facebook ads directly. But fortunately for you guys, I've tried both. I've failed with both. I've found a lot of success with both. And I can finally say, if there is basically a time when somebody can actually come to a conclusion, that I have kind of come to a conclusion when it comes to Google ads versus Facebook ads, when it comes to your e-commerce brand, and kind of like the pros and cons, and ultimately which way you should go depending on your situation. Because yes, it depends on where you are, what store you run, etc. But for that, you'll have to watch until the end of the video. Now, in order for you to find any type of success, regardless of whether it's with Facebook ads or with Google ads, there is really only one thing you will have to do right now that's gonna take no more than 2 quick seconds, and that is to destroy that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. I promise it's not really gonna take more than 2 quick seconds. Okay, hopefully you have destroyed the like button down below. But let's kind of understand overalls of Facebook ads and both Google ads. So for those of you that have been following me for a while, you know that my initial journey started with Facebook ads. I mean, if you look at my advertising platform right here, in total, this is actually for my newer e-commerce brand, which was solely running mostly on Google ads. As you can see, even then, this account spent about $93,000 since 2019. But I used to have another e-commerce brand, which kind of ranged back even before this, all the way back to 2017, 2018, which is the account which I found the most amount of success with. And unfortunately, right now, that ad account is fully suspended, so I don't really have access to it anymore. However, that was the ad account where I spent over 6 figures just testing different things out when it comes to Facebook ads. And what I kind of started to understand is, and even with these campaigns right here, when it comes to Facebook, it was more of a platform where I could kind of rely on if I wanted some quick sales, meaning if I already have a winning product on Google ads, or just a product I wanted to test and I knew that it could be a potential winning product and I wanted those sales fast, Facebook was the go-to platform. I mean, if we look at all of the advertisements done right here within this campaign, we can see that there's a lot of ad sets within this campaign, about 86 different ad sets, and that's because this product right here, which was getting advertised in this campaign, was actually a winning product for me in Google ads. I just decided to kind of implement Facebook ads along with that, and as you can see, it did fairly well overall. If we go ahead and look at their purchases and all of that stuff, it was about 150 purchases. I'm sure it was much more, because this ROAS during that time period was actually a 4x to a 5x, and that's because this was a higher ticket item. I've even covered this on my Twitter as well. So if you don't already follow me, go follow me on Twitter. But one benefit that I really liked when I used to mostly use Facebook ads and about the whole platform when it came to my e-commerce brand was I was able to sell a lot more when it came to the overall volume for the product. So if it were a $20 product, $30 product with Facebook, I could easily get thousands and thousands of orders. It was no big deal as long as that product was actually a winning product and my ads were also winning ads. But in addition, what I also noticed with Facebook is I could actually find a lot of success with products that had a lot of variability. For example, my first e-commerce brand was actually a fashion e-commerce brand, which is basically like bracelets, necklaces, hoodies, etc., etc. Obviously a lot of variability, because you can buy a red colored hoodie, you can buy a purple colored hoodie, you can buy a gray colored hoodie. But in addition to that, you could also buy different designs and all of that stuff. With Facebook, I found a lot of success with that because I could kind of get a general idea of what product was selling based on the overall order volume, based on a lot of other factors which I used to use back in the day when it came to product research. And those just kind of, bring back a lot of memories, some not so good ones, because I did end up wasting a lot of money testing stuff out. But nonetheless, Facebook was much easier to sell those products with a lot of variability, especially fashion. But pretty soon, believe it or not, everything when I used to use Facebook ads started to turn into a big nightmare, especially during the year of 2019, more towards the later portion, when all of a sudden Facebook's ban hammer just started going crazy, banning accounts left and right. Unfortunately, or in this case, fortunately for me, I was one of those people that got suspended from Facebook. And at that time, it was really devastating for me because I didn't know what else to do. This fashion brand wasn't doing too well with Google at that time, because again, at that time I didn't know Google ads too much and there weren't too many resources like there are right now. when it comes to Google Ads. I mean, you can just go on my channel and watch a whole Google Ads playlist that'll last you hours and hours and get you from $0, 10,000 a month, 50,000 a month, all the way up to $1 million a month or more. But definitely check that out. But during that time period, I didn't really have the luxury to do that. And as a result, I was basically starting to run my e-commerce brand at a profitable rate. One day, very next day, it would be a big red loss. And this started to happen more and more often. And there came a point when, the account that I was running with, like I mentioned earlier, got full on suspended. So of course I was panicked at the time. I mean, I was just a 19-year-old trying to figure out my business with Facebook ads. And if Facebook was going to suspend me, obviously at the time I didn't have a backup plan of some sort, like in this case Google Ads or anything, because I didn't know how to use Google at that time. So that was kind of when I switched over to Google. That's when I started fully going 100% into Google, spent about 6 figures with Google Ads, and I was much more satisfied. However, this advertising platform came with its own set of problems. It was basically a very different platform to what I had ever experienced, because with Facebook, it was as easy as just having an ad copy, having some image ads, targeting a specific interest, and right there, all you need to do is just reach your targeted audience based on the interest that you chose. But Google, on the other hand, last time I checked, there was no way for you to really target a specific interest, especially when it came to something like shopping ads, which, by the way, accumulates to about 90% of the sales overall when it comes to e-commerce. So it was kind of different for me. It was much more slow paced based on what I saw initially. And I wasn't too crazy about Google because, again, I was expecting those fast results that I got with Facebook. And doing those things, I mean, I can still remember I went into way deeper losses with Google Ads initially because I was trying to use that Facebook ads mentality. But using both since that time period, it kind of led me down this hill of analyzing both, understanding both, where both is good, where both are bad, etc., etc. And I kind of realized what works the best for e-commerce. So before I get into that, let's kind of go over both the pros and cons. It's very important for you to understand this. Otherwise, you won't know what your e-commerce brand should use and where you kind of lie within the spectrum. So with Facebook ads, what I kind of understood was essentially, as long as there was an interest for you to target on Facebook for that given niche you're trying to sell the product within, it was perfect for you to use. So it didn't really matter what the product was. And well, in some cases it actually did, but for me personally, I just tried to advertise whatever I could, and I used mostly image ads. So for me, they worked. I have a lot of e-commerce brands under my agency right now, Your Marketing, which if you're doing $30,000 or more per month, you need a little bit of extra help scaling to the next level. Go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can possibly work together and scale your e-commerce brand together. But what I understood from a lot of my clients as well currently is higher ticket also works really well with Facebook ads. You just need to kind of know how to do the proper ad copies, how to find the interest, etc., etc. But essentially what I kind of realized all throughout this time period is Facebook is pretty much perfect for all kinds of products, regardless of whether it's fashion with a lot of variability or it's a simple product like a baby toy or something. But in addition, one good thing about Facebook was testing you could do within 2 to 3 days, even a day, depending on your budget. You didn't necessarily have to wait for a long period of time or wait for it to optimize and get you results and all of that stuff that comes with Google Ads. But the biggest benefit of all when it came to Facebook ads, and just it just kind of makes me want to jump back on Facebook sometimes, in all honesty, it was very easy to scale very quickly with Facebook. You could go from $1,000 a day to $10,000 in a matter of a few days. And back in the golden days when, everybody was just using Facebook ads gradually, starting to learn about it, not too much competition, you could actually be profitable doing this. But of course, every good thing has a bad thing at the end. Not everything that's positive lasts for a lifetime. Same thing with Facebook. Unfortunately, it got way too saturated way too quickly. Too many e-commerce dropshippers, too many YouTubers talking about Facebook ads because there was basically no barrier to entry. Everybody and their dog could come on Facebook, start up a brand new account, and just start launching a bunch of random ads. And what this did is it drove up costs for everybody. So this kind of lowered the overall momentum Facebook ads had going for a lot of the original e-commerce brand owners who were finding a lot of success. And as a result, the ROAS value started to go lower and lower. I mean, this product right here on my screen has an overall ROAS at the very end of a 2.02. But if you look at the same product on my Google Ads account, the ROAS used to hover between a 4x and a 5x. So when it comes to Facebook ads, it's just the ROAS was what was taking the biggest hit. And if we look at all of the campaigns right here, we can see exactly what I mean. So this product right here during that time period, earlier time period at least, was the highest ROAS of a 3.95. Really not that great, but still pretty high compared to what I was achieving with these other products. And of course, during the peak season of these products, the ROAS was much higher. As time went on, the ROAS did start to drop. But that was kind of what was going on with Facebook. Just overall great fluctuations when it came to the overall ROAS values and just revenue values in general. I mean, it was not too uncommon to do $1,500 on a single day. One day, very next day, you do $32 in sales. I mean, there's no explanation for that. Like, you can't really say it's different audience members looking at the ads or whatever you might want to say, because that's just weird. But that's how Facebook was during that time period, and unfortunately you just had to kind of cope with it and deal with it. But in addition, there were just way too many issues recently coming up with monitoring your overall sales. I mean, right here you can't even see what the overall account ROAS is. You can't see the cost per purchases, etc., etc. It got way overboard. It just went right through over my head, and I just didn't want to deal with that anymore, because again, it was making it very hard for me to understand how profitable I was, if I was even profitable to begin with, all of those difficult things. But this kind of brought me onto Google Ads, and with Google, as I mentioned, there were some of their own flaws as well. But initially what I realized is Google Ads is basically perfect for any product out there with a good amount of search volume, and the search volume depends on what you really are looking for. For me, it's 30K or more per month, average monthly searches in total. For some people, it might be 5,000. It just depends on you. If you want my criteria, watch some of my other videos. But with Google, all I understood is if people are searching for it, you can sell it on Google, period. That means if people are searching for a spaceship that takes them to Mars in 2 seconds, and you have that spaceship to give them, you will sell that spaceship. But with Facebook, that might, of course, not really be possible, because again, you can't really target interest related to a spaceship. But with Google, it's very broad. It's very easy to do as long as there's keywords. In addition, when it comes to testing products with Google Ads, something called the shotgun method works very well compared to the sniper approach. So with Facebook, think about it like this. You have one campaign. Within that one campaign, you have maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 ad sets. Within each ad set, you might have 2, 3 ad copies, maybe even 1, depending on the budget. But the reality is, if you're doing things right, there should only be one product getting tested per campaign. With Google, you can have one campaign, one ad group, and 5 million different products as long as the budget kind of matches it. So that's what I really like about Google. There's no more of wasting time creating campaign after campaign. If it fails, you're back to the start. You're starting from zero. It's just a waste of time, in my opinion, when it comes to Facebook ads. So I really like Google for this. I can just put a bunch of campaigns in a general testing campaign, and things just take off that way. But one thing that's sort of like a benefit for Google, which a lot of people actually might even consider a flaw with Google, is that scale comes gradually. So unlike Facebook, you can't really scale overnight from $1,000 to $10,000 a day in a matter of a few days. It might take a bit longer. It might take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even 4 weeks. However, winning products and overall scale lasts much longer. I mean, during the peak season, what I want to show you guys is one of my e-commerce clients under my Google Ads agency, Euro Marketing. If we go on over to his store right here, and if we just take a look at how the scale was for him, especially last year, this is one e-commerce brand which did over $4 million, mostly with Google Ads. We can see just what kind of scale is possible with Google Ads. I mean, in February of 2021, they did 275 grand. In March, they did 470,000. And of course, things did go down a bit because in this time period, people are traveling, all of that good stuff. But September, October, November, December, in November, they did $500,000. So this is the beauty about Google. This is how consistent Google Ads can make you, if you do things right, of course. But that's really what I absolutely adore about Google. Facebook ads, 1 month, maximum 2 months, you're doing good. Third month, you're down in the trenches trying to find another winning product. So it doesn't really feel like you're building a business with Facebook. It feels like you're just going after winning product after winning product. But with Google Ads, one thing that might actually be more of a benefit is that it's a bit more difficult to get more established with Google Ads compared to Facebook. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, everybody and their dog can come on Facebook, just launch a few campaigns, and overnight go from 0 to 100K a month. But with Google, it takes a bit of optimizations. It takes you following their policies, and it takes time in general for your pixel, everything like that, algorithm to warm up. Once it warms up, for those of you that are patient enough for it to warm up, those are the ones that really reap the benefits of Google Ads. So I think that's really cool with Google because it kind of gets rid of all of those bad people out there who are just in for the quick money. So Another thing I really prefer about Google is that it's more beginner friendly. I mean, you don't have to worry about creating these amazing, 7-figure ad copies where you hired some girl from Europe who looks like a big model and has to record your product testimonial or whatever the case might be in a certain script. That's just, I personally believe, too complicated. It went through my head a lot of the times, and I didn't really enjoy doing that because it was a lot of extra work. So with Google, I didn't have to worry about ad copy. That's one reason, by the way, I just fully switched on to Google. I mean, I hated ad copies. I didn't know what to do besides the image ad because I sucked at videos. So with Google, that was eliminated. I didn't have to worry about ad copies anymore. It was as simple as just launching a good product with a good landing page and just having a good image. That's what I was powerful at and what I already knew that I could do well, because all I did with Facebook was images. But like I mentioned, every good thing has a bad side to it. With Google Ads, there were a few cons. One of the major cons was that just overall longer waiting periods. I mean, I'm a patient guy, but even me personally, I used to get kind of tired with waiting for Google to just kick in, and I would kind of become frustrated at times. So that is one definitely a con when it comes to Google, that it takes a bit longer to optimize, because again, you got to understand it's a search-based platform. It's not necessarily where you just put a random interest, just force people to watch your ad or whatever it is on their newsfeed. You can't force your ad with Google down somebody's throat. You got to just wait for somebody to search for that product, essentially come to you. If they like it, they purchase it. If not, cool, they don't buy it. But that kind of introduces a lack of control. So with Google, again, you can't really force anything in front of anybody. So again, you already lack control there. But in addition, with additions like Performance Max campaigns, all those smart-based bidding options, there's very little you can control with Google. That's just the way it is. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but for those control freaks out there, that might definitely be a bad thing. And it might kind of rub them the wrong way. So you just have to kind of learn to give up some control when it comes to Google. I learned to do that because I was a control freak myself, because obviously, I was from Facebook, so that's all I knew how to do. But in addition, if you do happen to deal with inconsistencies, which of course you will, because it's a platform, it's not like magical tricks or anything which can give you good sales increasing every single month, every single day even. It does take up and down. It takes a lot of riding the waves, like you see here on this e-commerce brand. There was a time period when it was going up, and there was a straight time period when things just were not working, they were going down. So you just have to go with the flow. You have to understand it. One con though is that inconsistencies take a bit longer to kind of deal with and to kind of fix. So that's definitely just one major issue. But if things weren't bad there, another major con with Google Ads is there's way too much kind of reliance on prices and comparison and all of that stuff. I mean, if you go on Google, for example, right now, if you kind of search up the legendary example I always give, because again, I'm in love with 3D printers for whatever reason, you can see that there's just way too much comparison. Like I can compare Amazon to 50 other competitors right on one page. It's not like Facebook where I don't see my competitors. I have to do manual labor work to figure out my competitors. But this is not necessarily a bad thing, because again, I've made a lot of videos on how I've been able to find winning products and be the highest priced item on this list while making the most amount of sales than everybody else. It just takes a bit of work, skill, strategy, etc., etc. But that's really only the main cons I can think of. So now, what you were waiting for, which one should you use for your e-commerce brand? Now, as I mentioned earlier, for Facebook, you should be using it if you, number one, want quick sales, or number two, are running a niche store or any kind of store where it's maybe a one product store targeting a specific product or specific products which don't have too much search volume on Google. I mean, if there's no search volume on Google, there's no point of you to go on Google and try to sell that. You might as well stick to Facebook. But again, you will have to deal with more of those ad copies, those inconsistencies, all of that stuff. So that's also for somebody who knows how to create proper ad copies, who's really great at creating video ads maybe, or maybe even image ads. Facebook ads is perfect for you. On the other hand, if you're like me, you're too lazy to create those ad copies, you don't know how to do it, or you just are in a niche or a general store where you have a lot of search volume for your products, you don't mind sourcing new products, having your suppliers create new products for you, then Google Ads is going to be perfect for you. You can find a lot of long-term success with it. But the ideal situation for both of you guys in both of the categories is you use both Facebook and Google, because like I showed you right here with my Facebook ads account, I was advertising a lot of products that were winning products on Google directly on Facebook, and I was getting good amount of results from Facebook ads during that time period. But of course, if we look at Google ads right here, Google was the one that was able to provide the biggest amounts of return on ad spend. I mean, last 7 days, 8.63. If we look at the last 14 days, it might fluctuate a bit, 6.37. But overall, if we look at all time, we can see the ROAS all time since the beginning of this brand, which it has been running since 2019, has been a very good ROAS compared to what you would see on Facebook. So this is the brand where I covered on my YouTube channel where I did over $2.5 million. So this ROAS is incorrect. It should be above a 5x, but as you can see, $383,000 spent in that time period. Very profitable results. And again, Facebook would never have been able to achieve this for me. I might have tried, I might have done much more in sales, but that doesn't matter because the ROAS would not have been there. So again, to kind of recap, use both Facebook and Google. If you need help with Google ads specifically, and you're already doing $30,000 or more, you just need a little bit of extra help scaling to the next level, go on to my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can make that happen, how we can scale you to the next level. But if you found any type of value in this video, destroy that like button, destroy that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.